Favorite cue other than pushing the ground away? I don't feel it working. Yeah, not everybody's going to feel every cue, and also cues can change over time. So one cue might work for you this month, but then next month you've kind of outgrown it and you need something else. So always be open to changing the cues that you use, whether with yourself or with other athletes. The other cues that I would kind of have as my go-to: pop the thigh forward, strike down and back. So you pop the thigh forward to bring the leg through, and then you strike down and back to hit the ground. And you can just do that back and forth. Pop the thigh forward, strike down and back. Pop the thigh forward, strike down and back. And if you do that enough, and if you practice it during your drills, you practice it during your accelerations, and in your timed runs or your fast runs, then that's going to ingrain subconsciously, and eventually, you know, it'll just happen naturally. You won't have to really think about it or cue it. It'll become your natural pattern of running. I think ultimately that's the goal. You know, you don't want to have to use a cue. If you're at the Olympic final and you're using a cue, then sorry to say, it might be a little too late for you. This stuff needs to be ingrained in your head by the time competition comes around. So cues can be really useful, but if you're relying on them too much and not just running naturally, then that can present issues with overthinking or, you know, locking up when it's time to compete. One thing to consider with the pop the thigh forward cue, I've talked about it before, but I'll reiterate. We're not trying to drive the knee high, okay? We're trying to drive it through forward. Once it goes as forward as far as it can, then we strike down to the ground. We don't want it to go as high as possible. Just swing it forward, then strike down and back. Another thing is, you know, with sprint technique, we don't want to over-exaggerate anything unless it's a glaringly obvious issue we need to really work on, like a very specific thing. Like I just said, avoid excessively high knees, and you shouldn't try to really feel like you're pushing past maybe 10 or 20 meters. Then it should just be kind of punching the ground, you know, hit the ground and bounce off of it, not really pushing through and spending a lot of time on the ground.